So here we would see some negotiation and soft skills that are mandate for a business analyst. So in today's session, we are going to cover negotiation skills, active listening, dealing with conflict, quality client service technique, decision making, problem solving, strategic thinking, technical writing, presentation and public speaking, and team building. So although they do not have a well defined definition around how you would be applying these skills in your respective project, but every BA, right from entry level business analyst to senior experienced consultants, they somehow more or less uh, apply these soft skills in their day-to-day activities. Now, the very first skill that we are going to see is negotiation skills. Now, why we would be needing a negotiation skills at the first place? Any idea why we would be needing negotiation skills?
To convince the business user
Okay,
to get requirements kind of
okay,
for during business cases, getting approvals and getting it approved, like getting business cases approved.
okay. So negotiation is a skill that it's not something that is very specific to business analysts. It is for anyone who is part of the project team, whether it's a developer, whether it's a tester, whether it's a project manager. This is a core skill set that everyone should possess. But as a business analyst, you need to have this skill set rightly aligned with your work that you are doing. So here sometimes we have to facilitate the negotiation, we have to develop the resources, and we would be needing negotiation when we see a scope creep that is happening. For example, if someone is asking you to add a new requirement during late in a particular project, just before the deliverable, then you should be in a position to negotiate around to add those requirement or to deliver those requirement in the subsequent releases, because we all work in a time box environment wherein the time allocated for every activity, whether it's a analysis activity or development activity or testing activity, is very limited in nature. So what we do, we tend to negotiate with different stakeholders. Now who all could be this stakeholder? Any idea with whom you would be negotiating? Is it only the business sponsor or business representative, or are there any stakeholder other than that with whom you would be negotiating? Okay, I'll give you some situations. Now you have to tell me how you would be negotiating in those situations. Now situation number one is like that you have all the requirements signed off from the business, and you have to convince, your developer is saying that the requirements are incomplete. Now how you would convince that particular developer that the requirements are complete? The business requirements are already signed off. Now the development team is raising questions on your requirement and saying it is incomplete. How you would be negotiating with them?
We might like ask the developer to at least begin with the project with the requirements that we already have, and like because it's obviously in if it is an agile environment that there might be requirements that we might be getting in later stage as and when we reach certain points or checkpoints.
Okay, any other views? So before answering to this question, whenever I mean, this is a very often scenario which happens in every project, and this question you may get in your business analysis interview as well, that development team is thinking that the requirement is incomplete. Now you need to first understand the root cause behind their perception, why they are thinking like that at the first place. Shouldn't it be a scenario wherein the development team just reads the requirement and they understand what is the functionality that the business is looking for? So, what is it incomplete? Is it really the requirement that is incomplete, or there is something else which is incomplete? To give you a hint, it is something related to use cases. Okay. So, what happens essentially in a particular project is like whenever you give requirements to the development team, they read the requirement at a very high level. Okay, so when they read the requirement at a very high level, they are unable to establish the connection between the interrelated artifacts. So to the development team, you would be giving different sort of requirements. It could be a functional specification document, it could be a UML diagram, use case diagram, or it could be a UI screen and mockup. Now, all of these artifacts are already approved by the business. Now, why business has approved these artifacts? Because you have explained them how you have maintained or established a traceability around the requirement. Okay, now you cannot give requirement to your developer at the first place, directly forward them all this requirement. You are supposed to explain them the requirement first and then forward the necessary documentation around the requirements. Now, if you do a real-time check for this scenario, it doesn't happen that way. So what happens essentially in a typical project wherein you are working in a fast-paced environment, like in an agile environment, you do not have that much time to explain or spoon feed each and every requirement to the developer. So what essentially happens is if the developer ends up assuming that the requirements are incomplete. And that's the reason why they question business analyst. Now, how the business analyst would mitigate this situation or how he would be negotiating with the developer, the basic approach would be first give them a requirement walkthrough, explain them how to read the requirements, how you have maintained the traceability of the requirement, how the documents are interrelated or interconnected with each other. Once you explain them, this is the process, this is how you have to holistically look at the requirement, not only what you need to code, but you have to see the system as a whole. Then they would get a visualization around how to read the requirement, and that perspective that the requirements are incomplete would be clear thereon to them. So it's your responsibility as a business analyst to give them a requirement walkthrough session, probably a 1 hour session before beginning the sprint cycle if you are working in an agile environment, or probably multiple session as and when that is needed. Because if you don't do so, you would be getting ad hoc pings or ad hoc emails from the development team stating that this requirement is missing or this functionality needs more detail. So that is one approach. Second approach is like, whenever you are writing the requirement and you are giving it to the business for sign off, you may not include the implicit requirement. Now, implicit requirements are something that has to be in accordance with the business, and it's not necessary that it has to be documented in the requirement document. Even if you don't mention the implicit requirement in the document, the business would give you a sign off. But that is not sufficient to the development team. So, how you would mitigate that part with the development team, or how you would negotiate that part with the development team? You would write some additional scenario explaining them about the requirement with some examples. Examples as in, if I do this, this should be happening. I mean, kind of activity sampling you can give it to them. If these are the set of actions that you do in the system, this should be the outcome. This way you can negotiate with the development team. Now, next question around the negotiation skill is how you would manage a difficult stakeholder who is not ready to approve your requirement. This is again an interview question. How you would manage a difficult stakeholder who is not ready to approve the requirements. Here also you would apply negotiation skill. I'm looking for how you would apply that negotiation skill. This stakeholder is very difficult in nature and he is not ready to approve your requirement, and it happens in real-time projects. Guys, don't be quiet. I'm getting a negative vibe around with this. Tell me whatever you feel like.
Will it be again like again a root cause analysis around it? Like why the stakeholder is not willing to sign off the requirements, and then trying to analyze that cause, if something is additional is required from our side, or if or what else is required that you can how you can make the stakeholder sign off these requirements.
Absolutely. That is the answer to this question. You need to first understand what are the additional expectation that stakeholder is having, which is withholding him to approve this requirement. Now, once he gives that additional, um, I mean, inputs around those requirements, you can probably modify that requirement and send it to that particular stakeholder for approval. or probably he may be requiring a more detailed analysis around that particular requirement. So you need to first understand that particular stakeholder, like what are his expectations. Now this is an activity you should have already done while identifying the stakeholders during your stakeholder analysis. But if not done in at that point of time, because stakeholder, their mood keeps on swinging every now and then. So today they are in some are in good mood, tomorrow they may not be in that mood to approve your requirement. You need to first understand that particular stakeholder, not from an authority perspective but from a relation perspective as well. How is that stakeholder? Is he too arrogant? Is he friendly in nature? Is he impulsive in nature? Is he aggressive in nature? You need to understand the nature, and accordingly you have to build a relationship with that particular stakeholder. Because if you have done stakeholder analysis thoroughly, then you would, you may not ever encounter with this situation in the later stage of the project. But if you do an incomplete stakeholder analysis, you don't understand the nature of the stakeholder, you may land up in trouble, which leads to not getting your requirements approved in a timely manner. So you need to build a relationship and need to understand what is this particular stakeholder additionally be needing when it comes to approving a requirement. So at a later point of time, even though if you identified this nature of this particular stakeholder, you have to learn a lesson over there. And next time onward, when you send that particular stakeholder the requirement, you can add those additional inclusion in the necessary requirement sets that you are sending. Okay, so negotiation is something wherein the business analyst would be facilitating negotiation. They would be used for development of the resources and the project scope creep. So this could be done through skills, agreement, deals, discussion, and understanding the business domain in a better context. The next skill is active listening. Now here, active listening skills we use for collection of business requirement, do quality internal client services, and gather status report. So these are the indicative situations wherein we would be using active listening. Can you tell me 2 to 3 techniques wherein we would be using active listening? 2 to 3 business analysis technique.
Brainstorming.
Right? Apart from that,
Requirement gathering.
requirement gathering is not a technique, it's a phase.
Oh, okay.
Focus group,
JAD sessions. Focus group.
JAD session, workshops, then interviewing, those kind of techniques wherein you would be involving multiple users for discussion. Now here you need to pay attention to everyone who is speaking in that particular meeting. Then you have to look at who is talking. You should not be talking while you are listening to something. You should ask question, or rather encourage all participants in that particular meeting to speak. You have to follow some directions that you have already laid down, that every participant would be given minimum 5 minutes to talk about a particular idea, and you have to visualize what is being said. For example, if a developer is saying, if you do this particular solutioning, the UI screen would look like that, and this is the process how we would be saving the information from UI screen to database. Now they are explaining you something. You don't have to just read through and just wait for their explanation to get over. You have to visualize it, what they are saying, and you have to map it with the context of the requirement that is under discussion. So some sort of visualization you need to do. Now active listening are more most important skills for a business analyst, because it is always said that always listen like a lawyer. Because if you don't listen everyone's perspective, there would be a issue wherein a conflict of interest may arise. So it's very important for you to listen what everyone is saying in that particular meeting, understand each and every perspective around their statements which, excuse me, they are making in that particular meeting. Now you can do it as a scribe or you can do it as a facilitator. Now, what's the difference between scribe and facilitator? Any idea? They both are part of this meetings or sessions. Are they same thing or are they different thing? Scribe and facilitator.
Facilitator might be someone who just helps on starting meeting or something like that, but I'm not like I don't know much about Scribe.
Okay. Everyone agrees to this.
I guess facilitates that he initiates the initial conversation between people.
Okay. Okay. Let's say, let me give you a situation. Um, there is this particular criminal who has committed a particular crime, and the police, they arrested that particular criminal, and they take that criminal to the court. Now that police person who has arrested that particular criminal, he is also present in that particular court, and the lawyer is also present in that particular court. Now the criminal is giving his statement and the lawyer is inspecting that particular statement, and there is one more person who is recording his statement, what that criminal is saying. Now the person who is recording that particular statement and the lawyer, they refer to scribe and facilitator. Can anyone identify in this situation who could be scribe and who could be facilitator? The lawyer would be a scribe or facilitator, or the person who is recording the statement would be a scribe or facilitator?
I think the person who is listening to the session, that hearing would be the scribe. I'm not sure.
Okay, so here the lawyer would be facilitator. Lawyer is allowed to ask question, and if something is said out of the context around that particular crime, then he has the authority to bring everyone, so what I would say, everyone's attention to that particular context only. They would have a discussion around that criminal case, not anything beyond that particular case. So the facilitator here would be lawyer. He is asking questions to the criminal. At the same time, he is setting the context for that particular case itself. If anyone is answering something out of the question, he is setting the right context over there. So that is what the role of facilitator is. Whenever you are putting something into discussion, the facilitator is allowed to ask question to different people. The facilitator has to ensure that right questions is being asked, nothing out of the context around the agenda of the meeting. Now what is scribe here in this case, in the criminal case? The person who is recording the statement of that criminal, he is not asking any question. He is just recording who is saying what. So scribe are the person in a particular meeting who just records what everyone is saying. He just takes the minutes of meeting. So that's the difference between a facilitator and scribe. Scribe is not allowed to ask any question. He would just take down notes around who said what. And facilitator is someone who is allowed to ask question, and he has to ensure that no one is asking anything out of the context. So in a particular meeting, you can have both in place. And we have these two people in a meeting wherein there are multiple stakeholders involved in that particular sessions, like focus group session or anything like JAD session or workshop, wherein there are multiple participants invited in that particular meeting. Because in real time scenario, let's say you are working in a multi-vendor model wherein the business analyst team is from Cognizant, development team is from Accenture, and testing team is from, let's say, Wipro. In that context, when you initiate these kind of meeting over a Skype call, there are around 50 participants. So as a facilitator, you would focus your energy towards writing the minutes note, like who said what, or you would focus your energy on asking question, or you would focus your energy towards setting the right context, that no one is discussing anything out of the context. Three things cannot be done together. So what you would do, you would set the right context and you would ask question as a facilitator, and you would bring in a junior BA who is in your project, who would only record what who is saying, or he would only write what who is saying. So that's the difference between facilitator and scribe. Now here, for both the people, you need to have a very good active listening skill. The next technique is dealing with conflict. So dealing with conflicts essentially comes in wherein you have to manage the deadlines, boost team morale, or you want to communicate something effectively. So these are some of the indicative situation wherein you would be using dealing the conflict. Now I'll give you a situation. You have to give me a solution how you would deal with this particular conflict. Now the situation is like this. A quality analyst or a tester, he has raised an issue, okay, as per the business requirement. And the development team is not accepting that issue as an issue. They are saying it is working as per the requirement. How you would deal with this conflict between the developer and the tester?
We can try UAT, and if the user is fine with the business user, we can go on.
How can we deliver that particular release to the customer when we are not sure about the quality of that particular functionality? First, we would convince ourselves as an vendor, then only we can release it to the UAT. We cannot get this sort of confirmation from the UAT user.
to a equilibrium point where both like they can do something and even US can sacrifice something or something where everyone gets a win.
Yeah, that's true. But how? My question is how? Okay, so the answer would be very similar to the earlier question that we had during our difficult stakeholder case. Now, there are certain things which are not properly, documented when it comes to business analysis, like the implicit requirement. So we need to first inspect as a business analyst whether the conflict that is happening between the QA team and the development team is valid or not. Now, how do we inspect that conflict at the first place? We need to first validate that issue raised by the QA team with our respective requirement, whether it's a requirement miss or whether it's a scenario miss by the QA team, or they are testing some incorrect scenario altogether. We need to validate it because essentially it happens that sometimes the QA team tests some incorrect scenario and they fail the issue and they raise an issue to the development team. In that case, the development team is not in a position to accept those issues as a default or as a bug or issue in that particular system. So as a business analyst, we need to resolve this conflict by inspecting in the requirement document whether at the first place it's a requirement miss or what. If it is a requirement miss, then it's fine. All the blame comes to the business analyst. But if it is a scenario miss, then that is something that has to be blamed to the tester team because they are the person who are essentially accountable for testing out all the end-to-end scenario pertaining to that particular system. And if it is something that the testing team is testing incorrectly, then we have to educate them that this is not the correct way of testing the system. You have to follow the right approach and you have to test the associated functionality correctly. You cannot test abruptly anything and raise an issue. So there is where you would be dealing with the conflict. You need to first identify why the conflict happened and what could be the possible causes of that particular conflict, and depending on that you have to take a decision around it. Now, managing the deadline, we are all aware of how to deal with the managing the deadline conflict, so I won't stress it more. Then comes a skill called as quality client service technique. Now, as a representative of the IT community, providing quality client service to the business users you support is critical to your job performance and career development. Now, this is something you need to ensure that irrespective of how many releases you are delivering to the customer throughout a particular year, you have to provide them consistent and quality client service. I stress on that word consistent. The quality has to be consistent. That means if you are delivering a quality with a ranking of 4 in this month and you have delivering a quality ranking of 4 in the next month, and at a subsequent month your quality falls to 3 months, so that is below the benchmark. You have to maintain the quality throughout the particular releases that you are delivering to the customer. It can go to the upper side, but it cannot fluctuate too much. Little bit fluctuation is allowed, but too much fluctuation would result in bringing down the confidence level of the customer, um, uh, I mean or his expectation with you as a business analyst. You cannot afford to do that. You have to maintain that consistent quality client service. So how this thing happens in organization is like, after every release we send a feedback form to the customer and we ask them how was their experience working with us as a vendor, and what are the improvement areas they would look through, what are the exciting areas they felt through, and what is their overall ranking. So basis on that feedback we constantly improve ourselves when it comes to providing quality client services. So quality is a subjective term. You can quantify it with different parameters, which essentially measures the quality need of that particular situation or project. Then comes the technique called as skills called as decision making. So this helps us in developing the decision matrix, provide appropriate business decision and some defendable decisions. Now, there are certain alternatives that are associated with decision making, certain uncertainty, some high risk consequences, some interpersonal issues, some complexity. So you have to use decision making skills when it comes to deal with this particular situation. Can anyone give me an example of alternatives? Identifying the options, the solution options, which option goes best with the given problem. Uncertainty, identifying the risk associated with a particular project. High risk consequences, if the risk happen, what is your mitigation plan? And the nature of the risk is high. Complexity, what is the complexity of that particular requirement? Interpersonal issues, any examples that you might have encountered in decision making? Yes, anyone is saying something? Example for interpersonal issues?
I guess like conflict with a coworker might uh, make us more like angry on him and throughout the project working with him.
Yes, aggression, stressful environment, frustration. These are some of the interpersonal issues wherein you have to take a decision. For example, this happens more often wherein I shout at the development team, and the consequences I have to pay for it, wherein the development team they don't give me the deliverable on time. So I have to build up that relationship with the development team. I cannot say them you are wrong directly, but indirectly I can educate them that this is not the right way, this is how you should be doing. You should be maintaining a relationship with the development team, and same goes for the quality team, because shouting at someone is not a solution to the problem. You have to make a decision around how you can solve the problem professionally by talking to them more proactively, making them realize what was their mistake and how they could mitigate this sort of mistake. Now, what could be a potential mistake by the development team or QA team? That they are unable to understand the requirement. So you can guide them or educate them how you can understand the requirement. So these are some of the situations. Essentially, interpersonal issues happens with the management team or the managers when it comes to your appraisal cycle every year. At the same time, interpersonal issues happen, and the outcome is that the manager goes on leave for 2 3 days. Once he is back, everyone is back to work in the same pace. So they know that this situation, I mean, this period is something wherein many people in my particular project would be unhappy based on the rating or feedback I have given. So these are some of the issues that truly exist in a project and which ultimately hampers the ongoing deliverables because everyone do not understand it, because at the end we as a human work for a salary, and if someone is not giving us the deserved hike or deserved recognition, appreciation, then it may bring some interpersonal issues, conflict with different stakeholder. It's very easy to say that we need to be professional, we need to be working for our company and all those blah blah thing, but in real practice it doesn't happen. So interpersonal issues are bound to happen in every project. So in those circumstances, whatever falls under your bucket, you have to take care of those interpersonal issues with the help of decision making skills. Next comes problem solving skill. 5 whys and brainstorming that can help you discover a problem's root cause and define potential solution. So if there are certain problems that you find in a particular uh, requirement or a particular situation, then you can solve that particular problem by identifying, defining the problem, exploring the problem, take the necessary action, and look back at the problem which was there. So you can essentially use the root cause analysis technique and the brainstorming technique to understand the problem in a better context, which would help you ultimately solve the problem. Next comes strategic thinking, which is thinking outside the box. Can anyone give me an example about strategic thinking? What you feel about this?
Maybe like understanding the current market trends and the competitors.
Okay. Okay, so that is a bookish, answer for strategic thinking. Now, strategic thinking can be in a different perspective. It is not essentially that you always compare yourself with your competitor when it comes to strategic thinking. You can also do it that way. I mean, basis on what are the available resources which is there with you. For example, you are working in this particular project since last 1 to 2 years. Now, how you can think strategically for that particular project? Now, you are already aware about their business processes. Now, you can think from a strategic perspective on cost saving measures for that particular project. You can probably identify the common process and implement some automation around it. Or you could probably recommend some suggestion around the system improvement areas as a business analyst. So these are typically termed as value add services by a business analyst to a particular project. Now this value add service doesn't essentially happens at a project level. It can happen at the domain competency level or to the organization level as a whole. Now how it would happen to a domain competency level? For example, your company has created some templates. Now this template is not like that once you created it, it would be used throughout the next 10 years or 20 years. There is always a scope of improvement. So what you do, you version those templates with some additional information. So that is also a value add service that you are doing, I mean giving to your domain competency group. Now how you would give value add service to your organization? Probably you can create some concept paper, you can write some white papers, you can write some blogs, you can create some proof of concepts. So these are something, the activities that you do over and above your work, that comprises of 8 working hours or your regular working hours. So anything that has a value that could be realized by the potential audiences. This audiences could be a project members, could be your organization member, could be your domain member. That would be termed as strategic thinking. So it's not about always a competitor analysis, but these are also areas wherein you could apply strategic thinking when you think out of the box and you add some value to the business, organization, or domain as a whole. So here you have to anticipate what it is expected. You then learn, then align, then decide, interpret, and think critically, whatever it is. So you can go this way or go this way as well. Then comes technical writing skill. Now, what is technical writing skill? When you write business requirement specification, you develop coherent, informative, and usable documents. Now, this is where you apply your technical writing skills, wherein you write the information in a language that it is understood by everyone, the business requirement specification. Understand by everyone means the intended audience. Now, this intended audience could be a mixed category of people. It could be a mixed bag of business users, the technical users, or the operational users. So you have to cater to all the users through that particular business requirement specification. Then comes presentation and public speaking skills. So you have to have a good presentation and public speaking skills as a business analyst. Can anyone tell me why? What's the reason behind it? Why it is considered as an important skills for a business analyst? Presentation and public speaking.
Because we are a point of contact with the development team as well as the business users. So you need to present them with accurate things so they can develop at ease of this. If you explain anything to the business user, they also understand the non-technical stuff in a non-technical. So there comes the presentation.
Okay, and what about public speaking?
You will be holding meetings or other things where you will be in contact of different like an audience or many people. So you should have convincing voice or like that kind of.
Yes, absolutely. So probably if you have attended any BA convention in your local area, wherever you are located, or any IIBA community chapters, you could see that people essentially the business analysts from different companies come to those convention and they showcase their potential as a business analyst to the other communities. I mean, other group of people who are essentially from different other organization. So what they are showcasing here is they are showcasing their company's capability and credibility in that particular market, the business analysis market, to other people, to I mean other people as in whoever are attending that particular convention. Now what happens in this conventions essentially that um, every company would be having their own booth or stalls that are installed in those particular convention, and people from different companies, the business users from different companies, they would visit everyone's booth with their particular problem. So whoever is convincing enough in that particular discussion would be given an opportunity to build contact with that particular business user. And once you build that highly needed contact, it's very likely that that particular business representative would outsource a project to your company. So as a business analyst, we have to maintain that brand image of our company when it comes to public speaking. At the same time, we work as a brand ambassador for that particular company. So remember, business analysis is not just about gathering the requirement. It is also maintaining the brand value of that company. You are the first person or first point of contact when it comes to representing your company by the external world. So you act as a brand ambassador for that company. So your roles and responsibility should not be limited to only project work. It has to exceed beyond the project work with some value additional services that you offer to the company. Because if you see, apart from writing requirement, the 6 months or 7 months if you think practically, a BA is not that much occupied with the work that are done in that particular company. So if I had to say, um, from the I mean, I'm talking about the Indian companies. From March till October, November, the BAs are highly busy. From November, December onwards till the next cycle, next financial cycle till April, the projects are not, no new projects are coming to the organization. So how they utilize this time? Because there are a lot of things, uh, you know, that could be accommodated during this time. They go for presentation, they go for public speaking, they, kind of market their companies. So these are the activities that a business analyst does when it comes to utilizing their time. Because essentially, business analysis, analysts are not that much busy like they pretend to be, but they have to utilize that time in using it effectively in any of these situations. The last skills or soft skills that a business analyst needs to have is team building. Now, what is team building? Looking at this image,
It's like working as a team to achieve a mutual goal,
mm-hmm.
like as per the image, and
Okay.
making the team strong to achieve a mutual goal.
Absolutely. So you can work as a guide to your team in terms of educating them, supporting them, training them. Because why these things are needed, this won't be asked to you upfront. These are the ad hoc activities that you do as a business analyst. A developer would never ever come to you asking for, hey, look, Sunil, that I am not understanding this business domain. He would never ever come to me. That is something I have to identify the training needs of that particular developer. I would see his work, see his question. Basis on that, it's my responsibility to explain him why this requirement is needed and what is the importance of this requirement to the business. So here what I am essentially doing is I'm training the particular user and developing his skills. So that is one example of coaching, training, and skilling a particular resource. Then there may be a situation that a developer comes to me and say that, see, this solution is not feasible. So I should be in a position to understand why it is not feasible and what are the necessary alternative solution that could be given to this. And accordingly, I would contact with the business stakeholder and get it approved by the business users. So depending on the situation, you would be using some team building skills in your particular project. So that is also one of the soft skills that you use as a business analyst.